Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast. For men and women at mid-career or the halftime of life with issues that concern you. Maximize your skills, resources, and experience to live an even more fulfilling and significant second half of life. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson, on Women at Halftime podcast. Well, hello, everyone. It's good to be with you today. I have Greg with me, and thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. Once a month I bring him on, and he just made me laugh. So, but we always have a good time. Well, we're talking about a very serious subject today, but I think we're going to, but we're going to cover hopefully some things that will really help you out with the issue of trust, the value of trust in our world today. Actually, it's huge. It's just a huge issue. To remind you, as this is being put out, we have a lot of things going. Make sure you get onto our newsletter. I will say this slowly this time. Goalsforyourlife.com, all one word, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. And you can get our articles that I write every single week with these podcasts, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. And also we have our Hero Mountain Summit, especially for small companies. It's a great program. Hero at goalsforyourlife.com/hero dash, can I say it? Mountain dash summit. Anyway, you'll be able to, I know that was a lot to say, but if you get my newsletter, you'll get all this. And also to make sure you get this book, The Summit.
Absolutely want to get
this book. Yes, thank you. Greg's been in sales for a long time and he can sell. But we're going to talk about trust in a lot of different areas today and how important that is.
Why don't we tell them some of the areas we're going to cover? Because I know, probably when people talk about trust, they just think about spousal relationships.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about sales.
Yes.
How odd it is that nobody trusts the news media.
Yes.
Trust for advisors that you have. Trust for medical advice you get from your doctors.
Yeah.
Trust, the world runs smoother when there's trust.
Yes.
And as there's a lack of trust introduced, all the gears start to grind. So that's kind of the broad perspective of what we're going to cover today.
Yes. And it really crosses over in all areas, because when you talk about relationship trust, a lot of this is relationships. Not only for spousal relationships, and because we've developed...
we were going to talk about trust with adult kids.
And adult kids. That's another... But we have so much to cover. We're going to have to do a couple episodes on this, but we'll see how much we can cover today, because I don't like to make these too long. But really some great issues. And so let's talk, first of all, this value of trust.
Okay.
Why it's important. And the recent report that I read from a huge survey that was put out all around the world, actually, and one of the two top areas where people are distrustful right now are the government and the media. And when I've known people that are one way or another, and politically or whatever, they've stopped even listening to the media because now they don't know what to trust anymore. No one knows what to trust. So what is this value of trust when you develop this in these different areas?
Right.
You can depend on people. Why don't you expand on that a little bit more, on that value as well?
Trust allows... when you trust somebody, it allows for an immediate reaction to what somebody suggests. When there's a lack of trust, the deeper the lack of trust, the more research or inquiry that will go into, whatever they're suggesting. A silly example would be if I, calmly said to Deb, "We need to get out of the house." And she goes, "Why?" Okay, so she didn't trust me implicitly, but I had calmly said we need to get out of the house. Why is not a bad question. And I say, because I sense that the next earthquake's going to make this thing fall down. And to the degree she knows I've been staying on top of, damage and all that stuff, will be the degree to which she either follows me out of the house or goes, well, what do you mean? And still needs to dig.
Right.
So, and people will continue to dig until they reach their level of trust. And if all of the answers have been, answered correctly,
right,
then there might be a response.
right.
So, so like I said in the opening, trust allows for the seamless movement of people engaging with each other. Lack of trust slows all of that down. So, if a huge portion of the population gets to where they no longer trust CDC guidelines on anything, and the CDC urgently says, we all need to do this. Well, if 30 or 35% of the people no longer trust the CDC, right, they just switch the channel and go about their lives,
right,
and refuse to even, pay attention.
Right.
So, it's like the guy who cried wolf. If people get to the place where they no longer trust the cry, they just ignore it.
Right.
And that can happen in all relationships. And what's interesting is that it can happen in communities.
Yes.
So.
Yes, that's very, very true. And that's why in so many businesses, developing that trust, it takes time. And one of the most difficult, I think, obstacles with some companies right now are when they're working virtually, they're not rubbing shoulders with each other. And they're not having to develop that sort of trust relationship and saying, well, can you tell me how you feel about this project or whatever? And all you're not getting that sort of eye-to-eye physical contact. So trust is extremely important in all areas of our life. And the CDC was a great example because it's kept going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so now, so what do we believe anymore? We don't even know.
Right.
So those and you got to give them a little bit of a break because there's been a lot of unknowns, but still, it's very difficult.
So in business, the two places that trust really stick out is in inter-office relationships, and in the sales relationship. In the inter-office relationship, generally people in the office want to feel heard, and that's because most people want acceptance, acclaim, and honor. And an easy way to give that is when people, as a part of the corporate culture, feel listened to, understood, that their opinion's sought out.
Right.
It doesn't mean everybody always goes with it. And, some people who are narcissistic and need to have their opinion followed at every place where they feel affronted, or, they've got other emotional issues.
Right.
But for the most part, most people, if they feel heard and their opinion's sought out, then there's a higher level of trust. And they feel like they participated in whatever sort of decision comes up.
Right.
Trust goes down when you just pretend to ask questions, and everybody quickly figures out that they're not listened to, that their opinion's not valued, and you're just full of pretense. In that kind of corporate culture, trust level goes down, and people give you surface answers, surface, ideas. They're not going to open up and be vulnerable with really good ideas because it doesn't matter. The second place, and this, because I was in sales, I'm the most experienced with this, is in the sales call. On the first sales call, most buyers have no trust at all. And the salesperson usually goes in and makes this mistake. They think their job is to talk this person into buying whatever it is they've got. Instead, the first 5 to 8 minutes of a conversation should be about getting to know the buyer, what their plans are, what their business model is, where they're going, And that does two things. One, it shows them that you're actually interested in their business, which increases your level of trust.
Right.
Two, it helps you figure out whether you really have a product to offer them. And as trust in a buyer goes up, they tend to believe more of what the salesperson has to say about facts and figures.
Right.
When trust is down, they doubt all the facts and figures. And so trust is critical to the sales process. Even think about the last time you bought something online and you went to all the Yelp reviews or, whatever the reviews are that you looked at. The reason you're looking at those is because you don't trust what the product said about itself. You
Right.
want to hear what people have said about it, and does it match? And that's how we go about online, building our trust to the point where we're willing to push the button and buy the product.
And even with testimonials, I can usually tell a testimonial that's kind of fake.
Yeah. Written by the spouse.
Yes, the testimonial that's out there, and you're going, really?
The marketing department wrote
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Right. You want real, and I think that's why even some of the video, the authentic, real, organic, the reviews, and that's why sometimes when you read a bad review, it's not a bad thing to have that, or something that's not less than perfect, because those people are being honest.
Yeah.
But most of them are good, so you go, we'll try this out.
Well,
it's
and
fine.
even if the bad is only partially bad, and you can live with that, it helps
Exactly.
build your trust.
Exactly.
It's interesting. That survey you looked at, I forget if it was that one or another one, but in general, the American public are down on trust right now. It's just there's not a lot of things to trust.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, some words I think that play well today are authentic, sincere, deliberate. And some of the words that don't play well are pretense, responsive or off the seat of your pants. So much of Instagram and those, our whole social media stuff is just people, responding or reacting. And I think people are in search of thoughtful.
Yes. I think so too. I think to be able to have something original and ideas and not just regurgitated.
Yeah.
How do you say that word?
Our whole world is
Yes,
regurgitated.
it really is.
And there's very little original.
Right. And things are regurgitated anyway, but if they're regurgitated in a creative way, it gives, because I think of music. Elton John, he borrowed from Bach. Oh my goodness. But you never put those together because it was so creative and all of the different things. It was just the pattern. So there's always going to be some sort of pattern there, and take those patterns, that's fine. But be authentic with that. Be not copying and not just cloning.
You gotta own some ideas first.
Yes.
And then you can share them.
And stand for something. Definitely. And that does build trust. And as you mentioned in these different areas too, with sales, definitely with, because I don't like being sold to. I just, and those emails that I get constantly, and I try not to send those emails. I try to just let people know what's going. They can order if they want, but I'm not going to, do those hard sell. I'm not a hard sell person anyway. But it's why would I go to somebody's organization or event if I have no idea who you are? And I don't know what you stand for. I don't know what this is.
Because you start with a low level of trust.
Yes.
And they haven't done anything to elevate that.
Yes, nothing. Like, I saw this. That's why some of those contacts that you say, I saw this article. I really feel like this might help you here, and this might, and just start the conversation. And I'm not always great at that because I just don't spend a lot of time doing that. But with the people in my life, I do. And that's why the beauty of these happy hours I've been putting together. It's amazing that people get together. They just want to get together and now share, and they feel comfortable, and
because their level of trust is way up,
big time, and they will share the difficult times, and we'll be able to help each other on those. So those are those groups that are just very, very important. I think our world is kind of missing today.
Yeah.
Anyway, But also in that financial area, because you've been in finance, this is a huge one right now of, okay, so who do you trust at some point with financial area? And you're looking at me like, oh, that's a big bag of worms. Yeah, it's like, oh.
Well, again, I mean, when looking for a financial advisor, you want somebody who you think understands your financial objectives,
yes,
that you think understands how to handle investing themselves, and probably that you enjoy. Relatively straightforward, but getting to where you feel like they hear you will increase your trust a lot. And then, do you enjoy the interaction, or do you dread going to the meeting?
Yeah.
Those are the two things. So if you're a financial advisor out there, what I'd do is make sure you have a 20-second video on LinkedIn or on your own YouTube channel that shows that you're enjoyable to be with. If you're not enjoyable to be with, just skip the video.
Yeah, just skip it. Yeah. One of the reasons I do so much video and even more live streams, I kind of pushed myself to do the live streams a little bit more in the video, but also I've had my newsletter going, I don't know how many years now, at least 20. And I used to put it out just once a month. But part of that is my connection with my audience and to build trust. Now, and I know people don't read every article. I know people don't always click it, but they know it's coming, is what they is. I got the comment again this last week from a colleague that is a financial advisor, and I don't know if she's an RIA, but anyway, she mentioned, she says, you are so consistent, and I love those articles. And I said, I know you don't read them all. And of course, I called her on that, but I said, it doesn't matter. You know that they're coming every week, and you know, just every time I'm not spamming.
She's gotten to the place where she can trust that that's coming next week.
Yeah.
She can rely on you. Yeah. You maintain a permanent relationship.
Right.
Yeah, there's very few of that going on in the world.
Yeah, there really is. And it takes work on my part. Sure. Of course it does. And I work virtually as well, or, when we're traveling, I can still schedule and be away and still have everything going in my business. So it takes work. It takes planning ahead. But people have come to expect, oh, why isn't this here? Where's my newsletter? And so that's been the comment before too, if I was late, so it kind of keeps me on my toes. But it's really a great way to where I feel like, you know what, even if very few, I know there's a certain number of people, I can see how many are opening it this every week. So I know there's a good number that are opening it. But to me, I don't know if they're reading, I don't know if they're seeing everything, but it's still there. It builds that trust, the consistency. Same thing in raising kids, the consistency with them, that they know that, there's certain areas that we don't cross the line. Oh boy, that's another one. Okay, so we're not going to get there, way down that path, but it really is in trust in so many areas. Well, I'm going to ask here, we've already hit this a little bit, and how do you leverage and develop trust? So we've talked about the communication and how that works beneficially, with your communication and the eye-to-eye contact and that relation, even virtually, that you can develop some of that. So, but leverage, when I think of leverage, I think of like a teeter-totter in, up and down and leveraging. And what if, we've talked about what if trust is lost, and how do you lose it, and really how do you get it back again? And that's a big deal too, because we talked briefly about it, but we need to go deeper on that and how. Okay, so if you've messed up, okay, and you've broken trust, what are some of those steps? Because we've talked about that even in our own relationship of building, how to rebuild sincerity, because there were times when we were first married, and I remember you saying to me, "Are you really sorry?" Oh, okay. So I think I am, but I mean, it did not come across really sorry. So
So let's look at like what's involved in trust,
yeah.
how it gets broken, and then how to fix it.
Yes.
So trust is essentially confidence in somebody, and there's different expressions of that. So. It could be confidence that your spouse is never going to wander. It could be confidence that your kids are going to usually tell you the truth. It could be confidence that your supplier is going to supply what you ordered on time with the guaranteed quality. Mm-hmm. So as confidence wanes, let's say an order's late once, it requires forgiveness. And most people are, the first time, second time, it's relatively not, but at some point there's a breaking point. And when that happens, the buyer starts to look for a different supplier. The parents start to rein in the kids. Conversations between spouses take way longer because you have to explain yourself and everything that you're thinking, and so the system drags down. Mm-hmm. So that's when confidence is lost, trust is lost, and now you got to fix it. So I know let's use sales as an example because it's a little less. Intimate and personal, but you can apply it to all the other areas.
Right.
So you're the sales guy and your company keeps messing up the orders. Right. So you got to go in and you got to rebuild trust. So the first thing you got to find out is ask your buyer how frustrated is he or she. And they say they're really frustrated, and give me 2 or 3 things that you're really frustrated about. Well, I'm only frustrated about the fact that when I order stuff, it's not getting here on time. And then you go, and this is important, is the quality good when it finally gets here? Yes. Is our marketing supporting you the way you want it to? Yes. So now you circle back and say, so the one thing that you got to have fixed is that this has got to be here on time. And what I did there was pointed out that our whole company is not a mess.
Right.
It's this one thing that we got to fix. And then you affirm. You've got to show some empathy and go, I can't imagine if I had to fill all of the stores you got to fill and something didn't come in on time and you got holes in your shelves, that has got to drive you crazy. You bet it does. And okay, so here, so you've heard them,
right? You've
affirmed them. Mm-hmm. Now you got to go. I am so sorry. What my company has told me was this has been a 3 or 4 week glitch. The result, the reason was overall supply chain issues. Mm-hmm. They found other distributors to help fill in the pieces, mm-hmm. and they assure me that they got this fixed. Can we try it one more time? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I did was I affirmed them, I offered an apology, and then I offered a plan. And the plan going forward is where you get to rebuild your trust. Mm. If you don't meet the plan, your trust isn't rebuilt. If you meet the plan, then over a period of time, and it all depends on what the issue is, over a period of time, you can fix the trust. Hope that makes sense. Same thing can be true with your teenagers, your spouse, people that you work with in the office. You have to hear them, affirm. You need to express sorrow. You need to offer a suggestion and then follow through on the plan.
That was worth so much. Anybody listening to this, you have just gotten an amazing amount of value, okay? This can save relationships. This can save a family. This can save a business. The number one thing, I'm sure of this, but the number one thing you did as well was ask the questions, because all of a sudden you've given them a chance to express their frustration.
Right. Number
one. And I think our response first, and I've done this, is, oh, I'm just so sorry. I'm just so sorry. Well, nobody believes that. You know, it's like...
Yeah, if you're sorry without finding the specifics, then the other person hasn't been heard.
Yeah.
Which is another, in my example, there was only one thing they were frustrated with.
Yes.
A lot of times, there's 2 or 3 things that are they're frustrated with. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take the time to unearth those, all of those frustrations are continuing to be there. And most people stop asking questions after they get one because they don't want to hear anymore.
Yeah.
It is way better for a long-term relationship that you hear them all and you offer solutions for fixing them all.
And what you could do, I mean, you could offer a solution for one thing, but just say, you know, we are working on these others. We hear you. We have a problem with this right now. Especially if it's a supply chain, we have a problem with this. We know there's so many others, and we're looking for a solution. If you can help us out, we will do everything we can to help you But that's that authentic sincerity. You've heard them, and you're going to say, "I'm on your team. We're in this together. We're not fight." And oh boy, parenting, that's a big one. So we're in this together. We were just talking with another friend of ours, you know, about adult kids. In fact, I've had several this week say, "Oh, can you send me that podcast on raising kids?
Raising adult
children." I said, "Well, we're not there yet, but we've given some ideas, and we're learning as we go."
That's an art.
Yeah, it is a definite art. But yeah, I even forget what my point is of right now with the adult kids. But there's certain things that we are all into this journey together on this, and that was part of this with the relationships. I mean, relationships together in spouses, you have to feel like you're on the same team. And oh yes, now I remember one of my points was to our friend was, and when the kids were growing up, the boys were growing up, we decided among ourselves, as long as one of us had the ability to communicate with them, and it was kind of at different times that which one would open up to one of us, but that was okay. You know, we weren't gonna feel bad.
They didn't have to face both of us at the same time.
Yeah, as long as one of us had that sort of communication.
But you can probably imagine, if you've got a 25, 30, 35-year-old child, you can have some pretty intense divisions emotionally. And, typically, it should take the parent to initiate that conversation and fix it.
Yeah.
If it takes the kid to initiate that conversation, you're probably not doing your job.
Yeah.
Unless they started it.
Yeah.
But
there's a point where, you're still a parent, but then you're watching the journey, and you're right alongside of that communication. You've been very good at that. That's been an adjustment for me as a mom too, of just, and the boys will remind me, I'm an adult. They'll remind me easily, especially.
I think we're skipping ahead. One of the things that we wanted to talk to you about with adult children is you need to nurture the relationship to a place where you can ask questions and they understand that you're asking as a peer, not as somebody who's going to judge. Meaning, you ask the question and you're okay with whatever the answer is. And they need to be also at a place where you can offer an opinion and that they know that it's just an opinion. It isn't a command. It's not a charge. So if you're going to be interacting with adult children, you need to be able to ask questions without judgment and willing to accept, whatever their answer is.
Right.
And And then based on that, you should have the freedom to say, well, have you thought about these two things?
Right.
And if you do this, then this is going to happen. Da, 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 da. And it leads to a dialogue. And as long as they have the freedom to say, yeah, I thought about that, or no, I haven't thought about that, or I thought about that, but I think it's going to be okay because da, 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 da. And you go, okay. That's a healthy conversation. But there's a lot of things here, not a lot, but there's 3 or 4 crucial decisions they're going to make in their lives. You know, getting a spouse, buying a house, changing a job, moving locations, where you've got 30 years of experience on them, not only yourself, but watching all of your friends.
Right.
And for you not to share your experience is ripping them off. Because you're the one person in their life with 30 years of experience on them that they should be able to trust and hear different viewpoints on.
Right, right.